Welcome back to the PUCKNPOD. On today's episode, we discuss the NHL Playoff races and our postseason expectations. Then we discuss Major League Baseball and its opening week. And finally, we discuss our favorite B movies or independent movies. That's coming up next right here on the PUCKNPOD. Let's puck and go! We back, ladies and gentlemen. It's another episode of the PUCKNPOD. My name is Joe.
My name is Brandon.
And I'm Paul.
Gentlemen, it's going to be a fun one today. I think we got a lot to talk about here. Before we get started, though, I just have to explain my disdain for my team that I cheer for. Disdain, I use the term... Normally, I would say I use the term lightly, but right now, I'm really starting to hate the team that I follow. It's like you think there's a chance that they could actually put together a game worth watching, and then they, how do I put this lightly, crap the bed against a team like the Seattle Kraken. As we record this, they played them last night, and it was not fun to watch.
Did you watch the whole game?
I did.
Yeah. I didn't watch much of the game. I had it turned on near the end as we were kind of flipping through some stuff, and I saw the score, and I just went, whoop, switching channels. Not even going to put the effort into that to just check out what was going on. But
it's just hard, and there's all the excuses in the world, like, they've got all these injuries. They don't have players like JT Miller anymore. They don't have, right now they don't have Philip Hedl, who's supposed to be like their second line. I don't think he's really a centerman, but he's like their second line, guy who's supposed to be bringing something, but he's got concussion problems, which is something he's had going into the trade anyway.
It's recurring, right?
It's like a recurring issue. So you kind of get what you pay for in the end, right? But it's just, it's unfortunate when you know what the team is capable of. I saw them pull off wins that were really, kind of come from behind wins. They're capable of it, but for some reason, this team right now, and I think it's because they see the writing on the wall more than anything. They know that the playoffs are kind of not going to happen at this point.
Now, it's interesting because they actually still have a chance.
They do. There's like a 1.9% chance.
Yeah, it's very slim. And unfortunately for them, a team like Calgary, who's ahead of them, has been playing well. St. Louis, who's ahead of them, who's been playing extremely well. Yeah, their people are even murmuring words of 2019 with St. Louis, which is like, okay, that's a lot to say, but just the way that they're sort of surging right now at the right time, it's like I said, the writing is on the wall. I see it as a Canuck fan. I'm not going to sit here and say there's a chance. There are people I follow who are also Canuck fans. There are people who have YouTube channels and things like that where they say never give up until it's officially over. But when you see the team play the way it plays, there's no hope for us to sit here and go, okay, there's a chance still. Now, to hear the disappointment in your voice, Paul, I want to get your thoughts and perspective on it. Now, you can't say that for the Canucks specifically, this is worst-case scenario for the season, but where do you think it falls in that between, like, super high level of expectation, bottom of the barrel expectation, like, where they're sitting in the standings right now? Like, where do you see their season and where it's gone?
Well, I think there's a bit of probably seller's remorse, obviously, when it comes to the JT Miller trade. You're mentioning, obviously, Philip Hedl and the concussion issues. The Rangers are not necessarily on a surge per se, but they are possibly playoff bound. They're
right on the cusp of it, right? With Montreal.
Yeah, right. And they're tied with them points wise. Just Montreal has the game in hand right now. But all it takes is a team getting hot at the right time. Again, you mentioned St. Louis, 10 games in a row that they've won. And 2019, that being kind of a repeat is not out of the realm of possibility.
They literally didn't lose a game from like the middle of January or something. They were last place in the league, and they surged back to win the Stanley Cup that year, which was incredible.
Yeah, you're looking at a team like Vancouver. I would say a bit of seller's remorse just because of obviously what was going on in the locker room. They kind of had to make a change. Could they got him more if they waited a little longer with JT Miller? Possibly, because he obviously in a new setting he heated right up. Maybe again, maybe if he had a bit more time with the Canucks, he would have heated up at their time and would have had more value for a trade at that point. It's unfortunate the way that it's worked out. Still possible for them to make it. Who knows? Maybe Minnesota keeps losing games and Vancouver goes on a heater. It's hard to say, but it's looking bleak when you got a 7-point difference.
Yeah, and like I say, like I said to the YouTube guy that I follow who was saying that to me, like, never say never. There's always a chance. It's like, okay, but here's my mentality as a Canuck fan. Like, I look at it like it's over. If they somehow find a way to do it, hey, then obviously I'll be happy. But we can't expect them to do much in the playoffs if they even get that far. That being said, we just sort of on touching back on what you said about the seller's remorse aspect of it. I'm not sure necessarily it's seller's remorse only for the fact that I don't think they expected the return for Miller to be what it should, what it probably should be if you were to trade him in the offseason kind of thing. But it's because of the fact that Miller had to go. There's so much behind the scenes stuff that we don't know about. It's all speculation, but like really what I've heard and what Miller's even said in interviews is that he really needed a change of scenery, basically. So in the end, whether or not he would have had a turn or like a turn, whether he would have kind of caught fire at some point, I don't know if that necessarily would have happened in Vancouver. I think that speculation would always be there.
Of course.
And the whole thing with Pettersson would have been there too. So really you saw when he got traded to New York that he did catch fire for a little bit there, and that was obvious too.
So when Miller was traded, I got the gist from you that you were okay with the trade.
Yeah.
It may have been a little bit more of you pushing on the positive side, looking for positivity. Now that you know Heedle's going to be concussion-ridden again, how do you feel about the trade now?
I think it, to be fair, and I'll speak as bluntly as possible, like it really doesn't matter what I think because ultimately it had to happen. Like the trade had to happen.
Yeah.
So the way I see it, it's like, Heedle wasn't necessarily the return that we were like. It's not. He wasn't the only piece of return that we got for him. We got the first round pick, plus we got Victor Mancini, who's going to be a great piece for them going forward. And Heedle may recover from this concussion, come back next year and be incredible again. But the other part of it is we took that first round pick and got Marcus Pettersson and Drew O'Connor as well. So there is other pieces to that, and you have to kind of look at the upside there, and that maybe this time next year we'll be having a completely different discussion about the Vancouver Canucks.
Very true.
So yeah, it's just, as a Canuck fan, I'm frustrated that they couldn't have a stronger finish to the season. But in the end, I'm also accepting of the fact that this is probably it. I will say I'm really excited for the BCHL playoffs. As you guys know, I work for the Clippers, and I'm really excited for the playoffs to start literally tomorrow, their first game against the Cowichan Valley Capitals. As the PA announcer and the DJ, I'm stoked to get things going for next week. Their first game in Nanaimo will be Tuesday, so I'm really looking forward to having that first playoff game.
Gonna bring something special?
I am, yeah. We've got like this whole presentation thing set up, and I've been working kind of hard on the side, like just kind of making things my own, and I want to, like, my goal is to ultimately give people goosebumps. It gives me goosebumps, just like when I sort of play the music that I've got set up. Yep. And they've got, I don't want to give too much away, but like they've got, lighting set up and things like that. So we're really stoked to do something special for the city of Nanaimo. Like this team, this city really hasn't had an exciting playoff atmosphere in a really long time.
Since before COVID.
That's right. And I mean, they made the finals in 2022. But again, the atmosphere isn't what we have the capability of bringing, and I think that's what I'm so excited for. So really, what's happening with the Canucks doesn't matter to me. I'm looking more forward to what's happening in the BCHL and actually the AHL too. We found out literally last night that the Abbotsford Canucks have clinched a playoff spot. So there is something to look forward to if you're a Canuck fan. It's just not the Vancouver Canucks in this case.
As I often do, and you guys know this, I take to X/Twitter to rant about life. And Joe, you noticed the other day, I'll be first to admit, I fell victim to the Rick Talking got fired April Fools.
Yep.
They said it on the radio, which I always listen to JRFM on the way to work in the morning. And Doc Andrews is the DJ, and he said that, Rick Tocchet's been relieved of his duties. And I just went, there's no way, man. There's 7 games left. What is he talking about? But he was serious about it. There was no like punchline, no mic drop at the end of it. I'm like, wow, what? So I got to work and I checked. I'm like, there's no report anywhere. Like, this guy really pulled my chain and I fell for it? Seriously?
Yeah. It was funny. He threw a message on the group chat and tried to let everybody know. And I was like, are you sure, dude? What day is it? I'm proud to say that this year, this is probably the first year it's ever happened to me where I did not fall for a prank on April Fools. People tried to get me a couple of times and I'm like, yeah, okay. Tell me tomorrow and we'll find out then, like... It's just so funny.
Did you see the one that there was a report about the Maple Leafs on April Fools? I fell for that too initially. I had to look it up. There was a report released that the Leafs had hired Colton Orr to be like a fighting expert and a physicality
fighting special
expert.
Coordinator.
They had a quote listed on the article from Brad Treliving saying, you know how I like my snot in my players, and Colton Orr is the prime example of this, and we've had our eye on him for a while, and he's going to bring a new element along with, and I'm just like, what? Why would they spend however much money to hire someone to teach them how to fight? Like, get Ryan Reeves to come up and give them pointers, which I'm sure he was doing all year, although he didn't fight worth a damn.
The Montreal Canadiens have hired George St. Pierre as their fighting coordinator. I love it.
Anyway,
Brandon, at the end of that, you were probably like, I gotta put my phone away.
Yeah,
I can't deal with this.
Better do some work, maybe.
It's so funny. Oh man, that's the best part about April Fool's Day. It's just like so easy to get fooled. I saw it a couple of years ago. I saw an ad in like the newspaper. It was like the Bulletin newspaper in Nanaimo, and it was like the ad said something like they were gonna empty out Long Lake and build like a stadium, like an arena for WHL there. And I was like, that's so cool. I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. I was
be a good spot.
It would be like, oh, that's creative, But I'm glad that I can laugh at it now because I wasn't laughing about it back then.
So let's go to the opposite side, Paul, and talk about our boys.
Well, one thing I can say that I'll be gleefully, joyfully cheering for is.
Did you just say leafily?
Gleefully, I could see that too.
Gleefully.
If Montreal or the Rangers win their next game and Boston loses, Boston's officially out.
Officially out.
They can't make the playoffs.
To be fair, I mean, if Boston made it to the playoffs, really, are you that scared?
No,
it's not the same team, right? Like
it's just the effect that they've had on Leafs Nation for years.
I hear that.
I'm happy to know that they are gone.
There's still a chance. There's still a chance you end up playing Brad Marchand in the playoffs.
There's still a chance that Elias Pettersson scores 50 this year, too.
Right.
But, looking at the Leafs, they're on a slight bit of a roll lately. They've won 3 in a row, and they play this weekend. Obviously, when you guys hear this podcast, I'll have already played those games. But, they beat Florida the other night, and that was huge for them in the standings. And
massive. Massive for not only them, but Tampa Bay, too, who's also right behind the Leafs. They've moved into second. Florida's third in the division right now.
They're in the division right now, and Tampa's on a roll. Like we were talking earlier just before the podcast, like Tampa's got the second best goal differential in the league next to the Jets right now.
Wow. I did not know that.
They are plus 72 for goals on the season. So they're rolling pretty good, 7-2-1, but so are the Leafs. So they're both kind of rolling at the right time. And if the standings were to stay the same way that they are right now, Leafs would possibly have a Battle of Ontario series right now. That'd
be pretty fun.
I'm low key rooting for that.
Yeah.
Even if that happens and Toronto, famously doesn't get out of the first round, it's going to be an unreal series to watch, I think.
Oh, great.
And
I can't see. To be fair, I can't see Toronto losing that series. That's just me. I don't want to get your hopes up. I don't want to jinx anything. I'm just saying, ultimately, it just seems to me that Ottawa. It doesn't appear to be the team that can beat Toronto.
They don't have the star power that Toronto has. Yes, they've got the work ethic. I think they work harder than the Leafs do on most nights. Not every night, but most nights, I would say. Tough forecheck for sure. They do things the right way.
Yeah.
But Toronto just has that edge if the Stars play. Right now they are.
Yeah.
The stars are coming out. Everybody's playing the way they should be. They've tightened things up defensively. Chris Tanev coming back from injury has really helped that. McCabe's been playing super well. Oliver Ekman-Larsson's been playing really well because he went through a rough stretch there. Anytime he touched the puck, I was like, please give it to someone else. Benoit's playing terribly. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen with that because PUCKNPOD is there. Apparently he's ready to go, but he can't play because of salary cap. Yeah. Same with Pacioretty. Having said that, David Camp went down last night, and he didn't play the third period. So he might be out, which means they can probably put Pacioretty in now, maybe get him a few games. But Philip Myers is there ready to go. Philip Myers has played okay for me.
Yep.
I think he's got an edge over Benoit for that final defensive spot, really. But overall, the goaltending's picked up too. I don't think Wall's going to be the starter. I think Stolarz is starting to run away with it now.
Yeah, he's starting to hit the net, I think, too.
So, but I mean, right now, first in their division, and they're now 4 points ahead of Florida. They're now tied in games, so the Leafs are officially 4 points ahead of Florida. And that game last night was so massive to win. Yeah. It really, really was.
There's nothing sweeter than home ice advantage in the playoffs.
And Montreal's beat Florida the last 2 games they played too, so that was help.
So what is up with Florida?
Merci beaucoup.
What is up with Florida, though?
No Matthew Tkachuk.
No Ekblad.
Yeah, those are big players for them.
Barkov didn't play last night.
Wow. Are they resting guys?
No.
Like they're
definitely injuries.
Because I mean, you're not sitting pretty here. Like you're still trying to get those points.
Apparently, Tkachuk just started skating again, so he'll be ready for the first game of the playoffs, of course. But
Nikita Kucherov effect.
Brad Marchand looked lost last night. If I'm being honest with you, I gave the puck away in the third period about 3 times.
Wow.
And he's playing on a line. He was playing on a line with Sam Bennett and Luosterainen last night. So that's a nasty line, and they were turning pucks over like crazy.
Wow.
which is fine by me. But I mean, the Leafs just look like they've taken that extra step right now. Of course, we know that can be gone tomorrow, but right now they're playing good hockey. So I can't really complain too much about Toronto.
So let's look at things the way they are currently. Like we're looking at all the divisions, right? Who do you see as the contenders in each division? Taking away the Leafs for a second, and taking away, obviously the Canucks aren't playing, but let's hypothetically taking away our teams. Let's look at other teams within the divisions. Who do you think is going to be a real competitive team?
You want to start with the Atlantic?
Yeah, we can start with the Atlantic. I'd say if Tampa keeps rolling the way that they are with the acquisitions that they made at the deadline, obviously Bjorkstrand and Gord, I think they're the team to beat in the Atlantic. As much as I want to say the Leafs are, I still think there's some cohesiveness kind of issues that they're trying to work through in terms of the bottom lines. I think the top lines are pretty much set, but the bottom lines, they're kind of still having to work out some of the kinks there. Tampa doesn't seem to be having that problem. They seem to be very set in their style of play. So if I'm looking at the Atlantic, I'd rate out of the 3 teams, it'd be Tampa, Leafs, and Florida.
Okay. Brandon, what do you think?
I 100% agree with pretty much everything you said. I'm terrified of Tampa Bay.
Is there, like, in that division, is there somebody, I mean, obviously there's only a couple more teams left, but is there somebody in there who you think could be a surprise?
Ottawa could be a surprise. I mean, they're playing well for the most part the last 10, 15 games, and they made a couple of additions, right? I don't think they fared so well against Buffalo the other night. I saw a thing that was funny that somebody said on Twitter, Dylan Cousins know he was traded to Ottawa, right?
Yeah, because he gave the puck away. That's right, I saw that, yeah. Gave the puck directly to a Buffalo player, and then they scored.
I mean, even the way it stands right now, I think Tampa Bay is probably going to win the division, just with how on fire they are, how put together they are, how well coached they are. Mr. John Cooper,
it'll be fun to watch when you consider the fact that the Leafs are doing so well too at the same time.
Those 3 teams, I mean, not only do they hate each other, they're all really good, and they're all within 4 points of each other, and Tampa has 1 game in hand on both Toronto and Florida.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at the deadline, they were the 3 teams that made the major acquisitions in the Atlantic. Like Ottawa made the Cousins trade, and I believe they got Zetterlund as well. But if you're looking at impactful players, like known impactful players, Lawton's pretty impactful, Carlo's impactful, Marchand's impactful, Gord, Bjorkstrand, these are all players that are difference makers for their teams.
So what about the Metro?
As we transition to the Metro, I want to make one point, and it's still a possibility. It's a reach, but it's still there. They've got 2 games in hand. They've got 77 points and are 2 points out of a wild card spot. The Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah, that could be incredible.
I just got goosebumps saying that because I'm actually low key proud of them.
Yeah. With everything that they've been through,
all the
100%.
crap that they've had to deal with, and the terrible seasons they've had. Flat out, they've been terrible.
Yeah.
And just to see that they're right there is really encouraging for that franchise and that fan base, which are super, super passionate. And, like they say, the season for Johnny, right? So.
Well, and Monahan's obviously playing his heart out for Johnny, right? They were the best of friends. That's why he signed with Columbus in the first place. Just they never even got the opportunity to play with him again, right? So it's I would, as a sleeper pick, would love to see Columbus make it in. I think they would actually match up pretty well against Washington if they were making it in over Montreal and the Rangers. In terms of, I think, just shutdown lines, Columbus is kind of known as a shutdown team right now, and I believe that they could shut down.
It's hard to put aside what Washington's done though this year.
Oh, yeah.
And with what Ovechkin's done this year, you really can't obviously sleep on them, right?
How many is he away from breaking the record now?
I think three.
He's 3 away.
As we record this, he's 3 away.
He's 7 games to go.
For all we know, by the time this podcast airs, he's beat that number. That would be incredible. That would be incredible.
I've never really been an Ovechkin fan. He plays the game the right way. He always kills the Leafs. I think that's probably why.
Right.
He just, every time he plays the Leafs, he sits in his office and, puts one on the board. But the respect I have for him is through the roof. I mean, he stayed healthy his pretty much his whole career. He's played at the same level for 20-plus years.
In the same exact position.
Standing
on that circle.
He plays hard every night. He prepares. Although, I saw the other day, he had he walked into the arena and he had a bag of fast food with him.
Nice.
Or something. They were showing as they walk into the arena in their suits and stuff. He was carrying a McDonald's bag or something.
He's basically an old man when you look at his tenure in the league. He's what is he, 40?
39.
39. Okay.
Turning 40.
So he'll be 40. It's pretty rare for a guy to play that long, but he wants to get that number, right?
Yeah, you talk about him standing in the circle. My favorite goal by him is him falling down in that circle.
Yeah, that was his younger days. That was his younger days. But yeah, that's one of my favorite goals of his too, for sure. So who else are we looking at in the Metro that may be a contender?
Carolina. And they played Washington last night. What a barn burner! Did you guys check out any of that game?
No.
There was 118 penalty minutes in that game, and 90 of them were in the last 7 minutes.
Is that right?
Did you guys see that clip of the fight with Chatfield?
With Chatfield, yeah.
How did he not get suspended for that? That's a UFC move, man.
I know. Yeah, that's so dangerous.
Now, I can't remember the Washington player that was fighting him. But now, if that player had smacked his head on the ice and was
Connor McMichael.
Right, yeah, thank you, Connor McMichael. If he'd have smacked his head and he was out, is that now a suspension?
Yeah, I wondered. If he got knocked out or if he got injured by any means. Yeah, I wonder.
That's a brutal throw.
He did smack his head when he fell to the ice. He just didn't get knocked out unconscious.
Did we? Because I couldn't see an angle where it showed that.
They did show. It wasn't like kaboom, where his head flipped back or anything like that. It's just on the fall. You could see with the shoulders he hit his head at the same time. Wasn't a super hard hit, obviously, because the shoulders obviously absorbed most of the impact. But nonetheless, had he fallen even more on an angle and fallen directly on his head, he could have broken his neck.
100% he could have. Yep.
It's I don't mind fighting in the game, and I don't mind a little bit of rough stuff in the game, but when you're seeing that kind of stuff, when you're looking at guys that could end careers, aka Todd Bertuzzi, Marty McSorley, any of these guys doing things that could end a person's career, criminal charges shouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for stuff like that.
Well, look what happened with Todd Bertuzzi, right?
Yeah.
Now, in that same division, it's interesting how spread out it is, because Washington has 105 points in first in that division. Carolina has 96. The third in that division is New Jersey with 87. They're 9 points behind second place.
And 2 games in hand for Carolina on them.
That's right. And then the next person behind that is the Rangers with 79 points.
No. Carolina has 2 games.
That's what I was saying.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
that's okay.
So you've got Washington, Carolina, New Jersey, and then the Rangers. And there is a quick math 26-point spread between first and fourth in that division. That's 13 wins.
I think you can argue then that obviously it's a weaker division than when you consider the difference between those.
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
comparing it to like the Atlantic, right, where you got a lot stronger teams playing in that one. Like literally, the top 3 teams are probably like 3 of the 4 best teams in the league, 5 best teams in the league.
I mean, if you think you can think about it that way based on history, but if you look at this year alone, Carolina in second place in their division would have the same amount of points as top spot in the Atlantic.
True. Okay, that's a good point.
So from a points percentage, I mean, no, the Atlantic isn't the best division.
Yeah, maybe.
You're right as far as powerhouse teams, history, and what they can do.
Teams that are also, I think you can argue like the Leafs, the Panthers, and the Lightning are kind of three in the same, right? Like they're so neck and neck with each other that it feels like that's why they are so considered that way. Like whereas with the Metro, you've got Washington and Carolina, who are probably the 2 best teams, who are the 2 best teams in that division, playing lights out right now.
The talent difference.
Washington's playing lights out right now.
Like, yeah, they are.
I mean, New Jersey probably would have had a better season if Jack Hughes hadn't
stayed
gone down.
healthy. Yeah, exactly.
If I look at this past off season, I wish the Leafs have actually made the move for Jacob Chychrun, and because it was just Nick Jensen.
But would you have wanted to sign Chychrun for what he just signed for?
Well, for $9 million a year for what he's done.
Now
for
I know next
Washington.
year the cap goes up another $4 million or something like that. But just I don't know.
What he's done for Washington, I wouldn't be against it. I'd rather him than OEL on the team.
Fair enough, yeah, and I agree. You're not going to want to pay OEL $9 million a year because Vancouver's already doing that.
It was just Nicholas Jensen and a third to get him for Washington. Yeah. Like that could have been Timothy Liljegren and a third.
That being said, too, like there's so many things you have to consider when it comes to trading for and signing a player like Chychrun. This is really the first year he's kind of broken out. Does it stay that way? Is it going to be consistent? Are we going to see the same guy next year?
Yeah, fair enough. That's very true.
And in the playoffs, for that matter, because we still got playoff hockey to play. Let's talk about the Central here, guys.
Yeah, while we do that, I can't get over how excited I get every time I scroll through the standings and see Boston in last place.
And officially eliminated soon.
Yeah. So Central, Winnipeg Jets.
Best team in the league.
Talk about the season they've had, right? Like
nuts.
It's been incredible. Being that the Canucks play in the West, you would think that I'm kind of against any team that's not Vancouver, but I've kind of always had a love for Winnipeg. Sort of. I use that term loosely because, like, obviously when they play Vancouver, I hate them. But I do like cheer for them when they're in the playoffs and things like that. I want them to do well because I know what the Winnipeg Jets history is. I know that they've lost their team before. The last thing I want to see is another Canadian team go away. Yeah. And it was definitely sad for me to see the Jets having a hard time selling out their building, even when their team is playing as well as they are. So for me, I just want them to do well so that they can have a consistently good, record of fans coming into the building and watching them play.
Yeah, they rallied and pined to have that team come back, and they're proven to be, like I said, the best team in the league right now.
Yeah.
They personally have in my opinion, have the best jersey in the league. I love their jersey.
The Jets?
Yeah.
They're currently tied, believe it or not. They're currently tied with Washington at 105.
Winnipeg has 106.
106. You're right. You know what? Something I forgot to mention, boys. I'm getting glasses.
That's right.
I got an eye exam yesterday, and or not yesterday, the day before, whatever, Monday. No, Tuesday. I got an eye exam on Tuesday. Found out I need to have glasses for close up.
Me too.
And as I'm looking at my phone, I saw 105, and then I looked closer, and sure enough, it is 106.
Interestingly enough, when I have glasses for the same reason, and it's almost like not only does it help you like enhance your vision for like the size and like what more clarity, it's almost like it takes it into like HD.
Yeah,
it's weird. It's
when I was doing the exam and the guy and like he switched it from one lens to another. The lens that was so clear, it literally was like I was looking at 4K versus HD or something. Like I was just like, oh, that's like so much clearer. And so he's like, you need readers basically, because I work in an office environment, work on a computer pretty much every day. I work on a computer, whether it's my computer here or at the office. So I need to have something that's going to help my eyes so that they don't adjust. Anyways, I digress. That looked like 105 to me, but yes, I look at it now. It is, in fact, 106. The Winnipeg Jets sitting at 106. But then you also have the Dallas Stars.
They're on their tail. They've won 6 in a row.
They were very active in the trade deadline as well.
Yeah. Dallas has my favorite jersey in the league.
You like the Stars?
Yeah, that like neon one?
I love that one.
That dark neon
one. People don't like it. I love
it too. I do too, yeah.
When you think about the West, I'm going to ask you guys to come up with like 2 off the top of your head. If someone says NHL, Western Conference, 2 powerhouse teams, traditionally, this year, whatever, what comes to mind?
Dallas, Colorado.
Vegas, Winnipeg.
Vegas, Winnipeg. I'm along the more lines with you, Joe, is thinking Dallas, Colorado. Colorado specifically, they are 10 points behind Winnipeg.
Which is insane.
And they're in 3rd in their division.
Yeah.
And Colorado is having a very good year. They look unbelievable.
Yeah. Now, Vegas, it's funny you say Vegas. I don't think Vegas, but that's just because, to me, Vegas isn't the same team they were when they were a powerhouse, when they won the Cup back in 2023. But they're better. They've got more points right now than Colorado does. But it just doesn't compute to me that they've had that good of a season. You know what I mean? Like, I don't hear about them enough.
They've also clinched a playoff spot.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're the top team in the Pacific, which we'll get to, obviously, in a minute. But, if I were to pick, say, an underdog in the Central, I'm going St. Louis just because of what they've been doing.
That winning streak is insane.
It's insane.
Like I said, we were talking before the podcast, remnants of the 2019 season.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if you have the hot hand. If you can carry that into the playoffs, I would not be surprised to see them at least make the conference final, if not the final.
Makes you think: did the Four Nations wake up Jordan Binnington and create this monster that he was back in 2019? Because, we've all kind of laughed at him from the side, kind of going, haha, you get what you deserve. And then he goes and plays for Team Canada, and that's like the script is flipped, right?
Yeah.
We all look at it like he is a hero for Canada and being able to bring the gold medal and the championship to Canada. But, there is obviously a team that plays in front of him too, and they're doing something incredible as well.
I bet they're not regretting trading Braden Shen now, that they held on to him. Like, when you're going on a run like this, it's crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, insiders, fans, podcasters, degenerates, you can all
you can kind of put them all in the same category.
Yeah, exactly. You can all have your opinion and form opinions based on what you read, what you hear, but really, the GM, the team, the president, the coaches, they have their finger on the pulse. They could have known the whole time Shen wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? Speculation's there because of his contract, because of, the lack of production that he's kind of had. I mean, he's having a down year offensively for sure. And where St. Louis was at the deadline. They all kind of hinted that, they're probably going to trade off a couple of assets. Mm-hmm. Well, hello. They don't have the Blues anymore.
Do you guys see Minnesota hanging on to that wild card spot? I know that they've been playing kind of poor lately, but if they don't hang on to it, then obviously that means that Calgary can catch up. Vancouver obviously needs a miracle to maintain that. But what do you think? Do you think that Minnesota will hang on to that wild card spot?
I think there's enough of a point differential for St. Louis and Minnesota compared to, say, Calgary, the Canucks, or even the Utah Hockey Club. Mm-hmm. There's enough of a point differential that even if Minnesota wins like 3 or 4 games out of the final 6 that they have, so even half of them, I think they're pretty much clinched at that point.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the way you have to look at it, right? Like, we can look at the standings and go, oh, there's a chance they can do this if they do this, if they do this. That's one team. For example, if you say Vancouver, if they run the board and they win, what are we at? If they win 7 games in a row.
Yeah, they're at 75.
That means nothing if Calgary wins 6.
6, exactly.
If Minnesota wins 4, as you just said, Paul, the other teams are the factor.
Really?
It's not what your team does.
You know, you look at the point differential. So Minnesota has 89 points. Vancouver has 81 points. Minnesota wins one more game. It could screw Vancouver over in the end, right? Like, really, it's just you're relying so much on the possibilities of another team losing than you are your team winning.
That's right.
And I think that's where most Canuck fans kind of see the writing on the wall, and they understand that the playoffs are pretty much not happening this year. So that brings us to the Pacific. Let's talk a little bit about that. Obviously, Vegas, number 1 in the Pacific right now. They've got 98 points. So again, 2 more points than Colorado, as we were talking. But who else do you see being kind of a threat in the Pacific?
Well, I do have to give kudos to Calgary for the year that they've had. The fact that they stayed in the playoff hunt, and they're still in this playoff hunt right now. The whole year when they were expected to be.
Yeah, we were talking in the offseason, earlier in was it the first season or this season? We were talking about the possibility of Calgary kind of being like where San Jose is.
Yeah.
And obviously that's not the case. They were far better than we expected, and they've had a really incredible season.
Like, I don't think any of us are surprised, obviously, with the way the standings are right now with Vegas, Kings, and Oilers being there. Yeah. I'm surprised that the Oilers aren't the one at the top, but...
I'm not that surprised, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that wholeheartedly. I don't mean that as a joke. I just mean, everybody looked at Edmonton like they were this powerhouse, but to me, I saw them in that they were the same team that they were last year.
Yeah.
They didn't really make much change. They still are relying on Skinner as their goaltender, who, I don't think he's capable of being the guy you think he is.
He's too much of a yo-yo.
Yeah, like inconsistent, right? Just constantly. One game he's really great, another game it's just like, where did he go?
Well, and they've had to rely on Calvin Pickard a few times this year because of that yo-yo effect with them.
I mean, it's sort of a 1A, 1B situation, wouldn't you agree?
I agree with that for sure. I mean, McDavid being out of the lineup doesn't help. Draisaitl's been out for a while. I think he's back now.
Yeah.
But he's been out for a while too. I would say Edmonton's goaltending situation is similar to why I think Calgary probably won't make the playoffs, as their goaltending is too much up in the air. As much as Dustin Wolf has had an incredible year.
And Vladar's been well too. Like he's
okay.
Vladar had a really good game recently. I want to say, what was it, a couple of nights ago? Vladar played, if I remember correctly. But he was, anyway, regardless, he had a really good game. And so it's kind of the story of like, oh, now they're on. Now they're playing in the right way at the right time.
Yeah.
Which is great for Calgary. Like you want that type of competitiveness in your team, but you want them to be able to carry it into the playoffs if they do in fact make the playoffs. And if they do, let me ask you this, Paul, if they do make the playoffs, as a Calgary fan, will you be surprised? Will you be shocked? Will you be appalled? Where will your mindset be?
Honestly, a bit surprised that they weren't able to be in a spot right now as it is, considering how they've been playing all year. If they do make it, it will definitely be a surprise. Dustin Wolf for sure has been a huge part of their success this year. Nazem Kadri apparently has been the leader that they've been needing.
Yeah.
Huberdeau's bounced back and is actually playing really well defensively for the Flames this year.
Nice.
Which again, he's not really ever been known as a defensive player, but Huska put him on the penalty kill, and his speed and his thoughtfulness with how plays break down, he's been quite effective on it this year. So I'll be surprised if they make it. I won't be surprised if they don't. What would be more surprising if they do make it and they make it out of the first round? That would be the most surprising factor.
Yeah, for sure.
I think their biggest problem, other than goaltending, is going to be they just can't score enough goals.
Yeah.
I mean, they have, excuse me, their goal differential is like minus 25 right now, but their goals for the year, they're 60 behind the pace.
Yeah.
Like the top teams in the league have like 268 goals plus. Calgary's sitting at like 190 goals for the year. Like it's not very good. So that's going to be a concern.
Defense seems to win the games for them.
It does.
Yeah,
that's right. It does. They just at the right time. I can't see them being able to be clutch enough to make that impact.
Now I don't want to undercut his his knowledge of the game and his sort of understanding of how the game works. But your cousin Josh, who's a fan of the show, he has said to me many times how much he, loves the Flames and lives in Calgary and whatnot. Do you think that he would be saying to us right now, they are going to make the playoffs, they're going to do well in the playoffs, and they might even compete for a cup? Like, can you see his mentality going there? Shout out to Josh, by the way.
Yeah, my god, bro.
Is he your cousin or?
He's not actually my cousin.
Oh, I apologize.
Technically, he's my godbrother.
Okay.
My parents are his godparents.
I see.
But
okay.
his mom and my mom were best friends.
Got you.
His mom was my mom's maid of honor.
Oh,
so
okay,
they grew up together on the Haida Gwaii, the Queen Charlotte
I met him
Islands.
at your brother's wedding. Yeah. Actually, I might have met him at your wedding. I can't remember. But
I think he's like an underrated hockey fan, if you want to call it that. Like, he's not too outspoken about it, but he really does love the Calgary Flames,
and
right?
he does love our podcast. So big shout out to Josh.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, Josh. We appreciate it. One thing I will say about Josh is he actually does follow other teams too, not just Calgary, but like he follows the Canucks too. He's talked to me about the Canucks before, and we've turned him into a big Clipper fan as well. So that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, and I would think as a realistic hockey fan, I think Josh knows that it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah,
and he can probably see why it's not going to happen. Basically, what we just alluded to: they can't score. Goaltending has been mediocre. The only reason they're winning games is their defense, right?
Yeah,
and coaching's been pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of wins that you would take into a season like this.
For sure, yeah.
Especially for the Flames.
But as a diehard Calgary Flames fan, of course you're going to say, oh, yeah, they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to do it. They're just, trying to be positive about it. But realistically, I think he knows. He's like, yeah, probably
I think that's just it, right? Like, too many people put that sort of fan hat on, and then they kind of hang by that. And, like I said, this guy that I follow on YouTube, who kept saying, the Canucks will make the playoffs. They will. And he stood by it, and he stood by it, and stood by it. And, literally up until, like, last week when they'd lost against, I can't remember, whatever team they played. They lost a game, and I went on there, I'm like, this team's cooked, man. That's not happening. Like, stop trying to make everybody believe. And he's like, no, just, man, all they need to do is they need to win a few more and get that momentum back and blah blah blah. And I'm like, it's over, man, just give it up. And it's just, sometimes you got to take off that hat for a second and realize there are bigger things at play, and you're not always gonna make the playoffs. And I mean, Canucks, they really have to look themselves in the mirror and kind of realize this isn't the year. So just to finish off the Pacific, right now Vegas is on top. LA is right behind them, and then of course Edmonton. Who do you see out of those kind of taking the division in the end?
I don't think anybody's going to catch Vegas. I just the way those teams are playing right now, the style of play. LA, of course, playing the trap. Edmonton having some key injuries, and the next team behind them, the Calgary Flames, it's not likely. I don't think anybody, even if Vegas, they're 7-2-1 in their last 10. They lost their last game, but even if they lose, how many games? They've got 8 games left. They could probably lose 6 of those and still win the division.
Yeah,
I think so too. Yeah, I think Vegas has got that set. Never know. A team like the Kings could go hot again.
They've won 2 in a row right now.
Yep.
Now,
so it's possible.
Now, that being said, like that statement, with Vegas taking the division, say, being number 1 in the division at the end of the season, what about the playoffs? Who do you see kind of winning the division in the playoffs? Like the divisional rivalry that you see the teams match up, who's going to be the team that takes it further in the division?
I mean, LA probably is set up the best to do that once you get into the playoffs and everybody's even keel. I'd probably put some money on LA.
Interesting.
Just the style of play, they're healthy again as well.
Yeah.
So
younger players
it's
too,
going to
right?
be interesting.
Younger players too.
Yeah.
That being said, I will never ever doubt a player like Mark Stone. Right? Mark Stone in the playoffs is like a whole other guy.
That's because he's rested half the year. So
that's kind of what I was digging for. But Paul, you wanted to talk a little bit more about something there.
Yeah. So if we were looking at the way that it's set up right now, we've got basically 8 games left in the year. But if the playoffs were to start today, I want to ask you guys about kind of each playoff bracket, the team that you think would win, and how many games they win in the first round. So we'll start with with the top team, which is Winnipeg, and it looks like they're going to be set up to play against Minnesota at the moment. Who would win that series, and by how many games?
I'll give Minnesota the benefit of the doubt. I'll give them a game, but I think Winnipeg takes it, game 5, so 4-1.
That would have been my thought too, 4-1 probably.
Just giving them a benefit of the doubt. Yep. Like, really, it's like night and day, the two teams, right? I think Minnesota, especially considering the fact that they're not playing consistent hockey at the moment. I just you can't say that they have a chance against somebody like Winnipeg.
So now I'd give Winnipeg the sweep.
Yeah, see, like, like that's a reasonable bet, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, if Winnipeg wins the President's Trophy, they might get swept. Who knows?
The curse of the President's Trophy.
That's very true.
Nobody knows that more than I do.
Yeah.
All right, Dallas and Colorado.
I cannot wait.
Yeah,
I hope that
would be an
happens.
amazing series. Like, I will probably record those games. Like, I want to watch that. To be fair, I have no idea who would win that series. Dallas?
Dallas in 7
in
for me.
7, yeah, like probably 7 games.
I'm giving Dallas in 6.
Yeah.
Just because I believe Rantanen has made that much of a difference, and the fact that he's playing against his old team, there's going to be that much more of a grudge.
You know what I think actually wins that series is goaltending.
Yeah.
Which Dallas has the edge.
Yeah.
Has the
like
advantage.
it'll be like really tight.
And Heiskanen back? Do you know, Paul? Has he been playing yet?
I haven't checked into it.
Yeah,
Probably should.
I'm curious. I'd be curious to know that. I'd have to check because he could be a serious X factor.
Oh,
for sure.
absolutely.
Totally.
Probably an X factor is why Rantanen signed
But
with
you
them.
know, you're also comparing Heiskanen to Makar, and Makar at least has a Stanley Cup to his name, and like he knows what it takes.
Oh, Makar has a huge resume. For sure.
Heiskanen's played in the final though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You're not wrong. I just feel like, skill wise, Makar's a better player.
I agree. I agree.
But again, like I said, I think it would be a really exciting series.
The Knights against the Blues.
I want to see the Blues win. I do. I want that.
I'd like to see Vegas humbled a bit. If that's my personal opinion on it. What do I think is going to happen in the series? That's one that potentially, if St. Louis stays on their roll, that potentially could go 7-2.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be like a St. Louis in 6 kind of thing.
Yeah.
If it's going to be St. Louis, it'll probably be 7. I still think that Vegas is probably going to take that series, but if St. Louis can stay hot, I think they could take them in 7.
Yeah, it may come down to injuries, really. Like It could be like Vegas plays a little too hard game 1, and a couple key players get hurt. You just never know, right?
And to confirm, Heiskanen is not playing yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's even questionable for round 1.
Wow.
So
That'd be a huge difference maker for
That
sure.
could be a benefit.
if he was
for Colorado.
playing, I don't think there's a question. And yes, I think he can make that much of a difference.
For sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised for it to go 7 games and for St. Louis just to squeak past them just because of how they're playing right now.
Totally.
The Kings and the Oilers. That seems to be a playoff matchup almost every
I'm
year.
hoping that happens just for the Oilers' sake. Just because, I know Oilers fans are just like, I don't want to play the Kings again, and I don't blame you. I don't think I would want to put up with that stupid trap game again 3 years in a row. But yeah, the Oilers are going to win that series, no doubt in my mind.
I think the opposite.
Yeah.
I think if LA and Edmonton play, I think Draisaitl and McDavid are going to get so frustrated and they're going to get shut down, and I think Skinner's going to the bed, and I think LA would take that series in 6.
The only reason I think the Oilers are going to win, to be honest, is actually sort of counterproductive to what you said, in that they're used to playing them. They know what to expect.
Yeah, that is true.
And so to me, that's why. They obviously beat LA last year, but it was in game 7, right? I think they went 7 games last year before they took Vancouver in round 2.
I believe so.
Which also went 7 games.
For one more argument's sake, though, prepare and scout all you want. When the game starts,
it's a different thing.
That they play the trap.
That's true.
That may not may not matter, but
That's true.
Anyway.
Well, and look at Draisaitl's year, right? He's not even, no one's even close to him in terms of the goals, right? So
Pardon?
Nylander is there, but they're still there with the amount of games that are left. Draisaitl's got a significant lead. That's the point I was trying to make.
And Draisaitl's been hurt.
I said, pardon?
Can you believe it? By the way, I just gave kudos to William Nylander. Oh my God, I must have a fever.
Oh,
You
yeah.
must.
Oh, this hairline's getting.
We'll get Tiffany to check on you after the pod.
But again, like Draisaitl and McDavid are two of the biggest difference makers in the game. And
I mean, the problem with the Oilers, and I've said this over and over again, year after year, they rely so heavily on those two players.
And power play.
And like you look at the way Edmonton is playing right now because McDavid's not there, it's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Right? They rely so heavily on those guys to be the difference makers that in the playoffs, it tends to shoot them in the foot. And I think Oilers fans would agree with me on that.
I'm going to go on a hot take here, and I've actually changed my mind a little bit just thinking about it for the last 5 minutes. I think, potentially, the Oilers absolutely just crumble. I think there's a chance. And I know my buddy Mike doesn't want to hear that, but I don't know. I have this feeling, especially just lately, the way they've been playing, it's been really kind of all over the place, McDavid or not. And I don't know. I have this feeling that we usually see 2 or 3 series every year that you just go, what happened?
Yeah.
And I just have this gut feeling potentially that could happen to the Oilers this year.
Part of me wonders if that were to happen, and they crumble in the first round, what happens to the Oilers in the offseason?
Oh, big changes for sure.
Yeah,
I would say.
Have to be. Moving over to the East. Looking at the top team in the East, it would be the Capitals and the Canadiens.
Oh.
Yeah, Capitals.
Capitals win that series in 3.
I mean, yeah. You know what's funny? Actually, just a quick side note. I was doing a little research on the Fred Page Cup, which is the championship in the BCHL. In 1972, the Nanaimo Clippers won the Fred Page Cup against the Penticton Vs in 3 games. It was a 2-1 series. Do you know why they won in 3? Because Penticton forfeited.
Oh.
They won because of forfeiture. So the only thing I can think of is the reason why they forfeited is because maybe injuries. They didn't have players that they could call up to take the place of the players that got hurt or something. I have no idea why Penticton would have forfeited, but
weird.
It's just funny how that works, eh?
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, they just could have been poor losers.
So if that were to happen, and in that case Montreal forfeits and says, we give up, you can have it.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, not that I want to bring this back up again, but look at that COVID year when it was the Canadian division.
Yeah.
Toronto was well above Montreal in that series. Like, Toronto probably could have played half their roster realistically and beaten Montreal, and they didn't.
You could argue Montreal was basically St. Louis that year.
Yeah.
They took it all the way to the finals, and it was incredible.
Well, and yeah, like
I was rooting for them. I'll be honest. I was rooting for Montreal, not against the Leafs, but in general. Like I was rooting for them to win it because I wanted the Canadian team to win it. Right?
They had 2 difference makers during that whole playoff run, and that was Carey Price and Shea Weber.
They also had Alexander Burrows. Don't forget.
Yeah. Hi-yo. Yeah, and I would say the same thing. I'd say Capitals probably in a sweep.
Yeah.
Carolina and New Jersey.
Carolina in 6.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go Carolina as well. Yeah, probably 6 games. I don't think that one goes 7.
No.
But I can't see Carolina running away with it.
No.
So I think 6 is kind of the natural.
6 is fairly reasonable.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to go different. Just for the reason for the trade, obviously, that they made for Rantanen and then having to trade him again for, again, you had Nietzsche, you had Rantanen, and now you got Stankoven. That's a significant star difference.
True.
Star power difference.
Yeah,
and
true. Now, Stankoven has a lot of potential.
He does.
But yeah, you're
right.
right.
Not the experience.
Right now, he's not the player that Rantanen was or is, or Nietzsche for that matter.
So I actually have to give it to New Jersey, and I believe New Jersey could take it in either 6 or 7 games.
I would agree with you as long as Jack Hughes is playing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
He sure has made a difference, though, this year. He has.
100%. Yeah, he's a good captain too.
The Battle of the Sunshine State, Florida and Tampa.
I'm giving it to Tampa Bay, man. The way they're playing right now, if they continue, as we mentioned earlier, they may even take that series in 5. I'm going to be bold. Like, Florida's going the opposite way, and I know Tkachuk's probably going to be back. Ekblad has to miss the first 2 games.
That's right.
But he's going to come in not playing for the last month and a half, 2 months. Yeah. So he's not going
to
probably
ramp it up from the moment.
I mean, he's probably working out like a horse right now, trying to stay in shape, but it's not the same as playing.
Yep.
So even him coming back 2 games into that series, it might be gone by then. And I mean, if Tkachuk comes back game 1, we anticipate he will, because that's just seems to be the way with salary cap and stars these days. Yeah. But I think that one could go sideways in a hurry, and that could possibly be Tampa Bay in 5.
Yeah, I will lean towards Tampa on that one as well, but I think it goes to 7. I think both teams made some pretty significant moves at the deadline, and they seem to be melding pretty good. Albeit again, Marchand maybe not, but that's because you got some of your star power out right now with Florida. I think it goes 7, but
the reason I agree with you too is more along the lines of, Florida's playing kind of inconsistently at the moment, but you get into a 7-game series, you pretty much catch that wave as quickly as possible.
Absolutely.
And they're going to be I always compare it to like Rocky versus Apollo, right? Like just back and forth. Back and forth.
Quite literally.
So it could go 7 in that case. Yeah.
All right. And then finally, the Battle of Ontario, the Leafs and the Senators.
Oh, it's got to be the Leafs. It's got to be. Now, that being said, like you said, the Senators are a good team. They are somebody you don't want to look past. I can see this series being a good one, and I can see it going 6-7 games. So I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, and I'll say 7 games, but I definitely think the Leafs take it.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say this, and you guys are probably going to roll your eyes, and everybody listening is going to roll their eyes until I finished my point. But I
already started rolling my eyes.
I have a feeling about this year. And what I mean by that is that I think the Leafs and their stars, who traditionally seem to disappear in the playoffs, maybe with the exception of William Nylander, who has had 3 consecutive monster playoff series, Matthews, Marner, they've been not great. And I just have a feeling that it's going to be different this year. Matthews finally looks like Matthews again, and he has done for about 3 weeks. And I can't see him slowing down. Their third line starting to look good. Domi's turning it on. Tavares has been the best goal scorer in the NHL since January.
Yep.
So which is saying something.
Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling that it's going to be different this year. And I don't necessarily mean they're going to win. I think they will. And I think they're going to have some playoff success. I just think they're going to be more of it's going to be less of a question mark this year.
Yeah.
For Toronto.
Yeah.
And I think
where people don't doubt if they're going to get past the first round.
I think if it's against Ottawa, they take that series in 6 games.
I think probably what will happen, can't predict the future, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Ottawa take the first game, just for the fact that Toronto tends to be a bit of a slow starter when the playoffs starts, and then they kind of pick it up after they're like, oh, we actually have to show up.
It's a dangerous thing to do, though.
Yeah, and they tend to start games slow even now in the regular season, and then pick it up in the second half. So I could see them taking it in 5. Like if they lost the first game and then sweeping after it, because you'd have to wake up the giant at that point. I could see them taking it in 5, but it could even go 6, depending on how hard a forecheck that Ottawa has and whether the Leafs can play against that.
Yeah, and that's why I think 7, because ultimately I think you don't want to underestimate what Ottawa is capable of. And we, like you guys were even saying at the beginning, like Ottawa is definitely a good team.
Yeah.
That you think could be capable of doing some damage in the playoffs. So give them the benefit of the doubt, and I definitely think a 7-game series, but I definitely think the Leafs take it too. Gentlemen, we have been talking about hockey for about 57 minutes.
Wow.
So I say we move on quickly to some Major League Baseball news. It's opening week. We can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we're looking at the Major League Baseball season, obviously, having started just this past week. Blue Jays weren't off to a great start in their first game. I made a big noise about how I didn't like how they lost 12-2 in the first game, but they have gone 4-1 since and are leading the American East for the first time in a couple of years now.
The very tough American League East.
Wow. Yeah.
At that matter.
I mean, they had a really good spring training too, right?
They were the second best team in spring training. They won their Grapefruit League. And I think they were 12-6. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I think something like that. Yeah, probably.
It's interesting because there are 500 baseball teams that make the playoffs.
Right.
Sometimes it's possible, right?
Yeah,
they're 5-2 right now. They technically probably could have been 6-1 had Max Scherzer not left the game in the third inning, and then they had two relief pitchers that didn't do too good. Richard Lovelady, I think, hit 3 batters in the following inning, and Baltimore just took advantage of them.
Baltimore's a good team, though. I mean, we're 7 games into the season. It means nothing.
Yeah,
especially in that division.
But it's nice to see them open with a strong showing for the first time in a long time.
Well, they're the first time over 500 since April 24th of last year.
Crazy.
So, that's almost a calendar year.
Yeah.
How many of the games have you watched so far?
All of them. So
you
far.
Have. Good for you. I embarrassingly, I haven't been able to catch a single full game. I've watched Blue Jays in 30 and caught kind of the highlights on Sportsnet, but that's literally all the amount of time I've had to put towards the Jays season so far, based on my work schedule. But I have noted a couple of things, and it's the start of Bo Bichette. He's hitting .375 right now, and they're just the coaching staff is raving about how he never has the same swing twice, but he makes it successful.
Yeah,
he makes it work for him. He never swings the bat the same way. Whereas on the other end, you get like Aaron Boone in New York, who raved last year about how much Juan Soto, he'd never changed his swing.
Right.
And how he has success doing it that way. It's interesting, the yin and yang of it.
Yeah, very, very interesting players when you're comparing them. I agree, and the fact that the Blue Jays were in on Juan Soto, that would have been a nice pickup. But honestly, if we're looking at pickups, great start to the year and very surprising, and not one I expected to be any good at all. The Andres Jimenez deal has worked out swimmingly for them.
He's looking great. He's looking really on both sides of the field. On both sides of the field, based on what I've seen. Like I said, I'm talking like I've watched the games. I admitted I have not watched the game, but I've seen highlights. I've read articles, and yeah.
Speaking of pickups, that truck you have out there is really nice.
It's a nice truck, isn't it? Thank you.
But a little dad joke for you.
But yeah, just obviously watching the Blue Jays start. They swept the Nationals, which wasn't really a close series. There was a few at bats they had to worry about, but the Jays look good. It's just the beginning of the year, so we're talking just about opening week right now. They had a really good opening week. Couple of, I guess, kind of noteworthy things that have been happening during the MLB opening week is the torpedo bats are kind of the talk of the league right now.
Torpedo bats.
Yeah.
Torpedo bats.
What exactly is going on with the torpedo bats? Because I've only seen a few things. Are they actually being used?
What are torpedo bats? I need more information. For those of us who don't know.
My understanding of a torpedo bat is the way it's shaped.
Okay.
So essentially the point of it, and I'm going to paraphrase, I'm sure Paul's going to have a little bit more concrete information. But my understanding of the torpedo bat, generally you have a cylindrical barrel, correct? And it tapers near the handle.
Right.
So it evens out the load of impact throughout the entire barrel of the bat.
Right.
A torpedo bat is basically tapered at both ends, and it creates the impact in the middle of the barrel only, which is often where that sweet spot is.
Really?
So all that power is being shifted now to the center of the bat. If you make proper contact, the ball is projected to go farther.
I assume that,
or harder.
I assume that by that math, it's harder to hit the ball.
Yeah, you got to hit it square.
Yeah.
You absolutely have to hit it square. But, these hitters in the MLB often do that.
Right.
How often do you see them shank it off the end of the bat and dribbler out in front of the plate?
That's more like
once a game?
That's more like a me move.
Combined kind of thing? It's rare, right?
Well, these bats are modified so that when the swing is happening, that the mass actually shifts towards the end of the bat, so you're getting that extra power coming out of your swing
to push the ball further.
When you got powerhouse hitters like a Shohei Ohtani or
Vladimir
Guerrero, when he actually hits,
or even an Aaron Judge, guys that have those big arms, and if that power is coming down to the bottom of the bat, and the fact that those guys actually tend to swing at balls that are not necessarily always right in the strike zone, they will swing at balls that are kind of almost outside. If you're having that downward momentum and power going towards a ball that's on the outside. When you make contact with that, you're going to hit it with a lot of power. And so that's kind of why they're kind of generating a lot of talk in the league, is that it's allowing for more power to happen for pitches that you wouldn't expect to get hit with power.
All right. So that's opening week.
Yeah, it's going to be it's a long season. I mean, don't anybody get too excited. A 5-2 start is good. If they can continue to do that through the course of the year, of course they're going to have success. But when you're playing your own division, teams like the Yankees, the Orioles, Tampa Bay Rays, even the Red Sox to a point, I don't think the Red Sox are supposed to have a stellar season, but when you're playing those teams 12, 15 times a year before playoffs, those games are very important, and that division can just go all over the place.
Yeah, your goal, your mindset really is to be the best in your division, really, ultimately.
Yeah, and I mean, baseball has a wild card playoff berth and bracket as well. Yeah. But it's, really, you need to be the top of your division to really stand a chance.
The Dodgers are the gold standard for the league. Unfortunately, they're going to be like that for a while. It'll be interesting.
Well, they won the World Series, right? So,
and part of the reason I bring that up, right, it'll be interesting to see how long they can go undefeated for the season, the start of the season. Yeah, kind of the same way that Winnipeg Jets were for the NHL, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right.
Ohtani's inhuman.
Yeah,
he stepped up to the plate last night. Tie game, bottom of the ninth, 2 out.
Yeah.
First pitch, cranks a home run. See you later.
Yeah. Just incredible.
They do random drug screenings, right? Like, tell me they've gotten this guy's blood.
Yeah, really.
Maybe he actually was infused with Godzilla's blood, so you know.
You know what's unfair is that if he has to go in for a urine sample, does his translator have to go with him?
Godzilla, would you consider that like a B movie?
Yeah, I guess, back in the day you probably could have.
The original.
Well,
maybe all of them. I mean, there are some obviously that aren't. I wouldn't probably not consider a B movie just for the fact that people flock to the theaters to go see them because they're epic. But one of the things we're talking about today, specifically when it comes to entertainment, is our favorite B movies or independent films, because there's a lot of independent films too. Like I love independent movies, especially ones that are they kind of almost masquerade as like a big time movie, right? Where it's, you're going to the theater expecting this kind of low film, and then all this epic stuff happens within it. But it's independent because it's not being backed by, say, a big studio, and you're running on a sort of micro budget compared to what these big movies do. But they can still make a really good film out of it. And in some cases, they come out with a sequel because of how much success the original film had. What's, say, something that you would consider your favorite B movie or independent film?
Well, I think first I want to ask you guys for a second, if we can, is that kind of your soft definition of an independent film?
Yes, that's my definition of an independent film.
Not backed by a studio, low budget, and does it have anything to do with a particular filmmaker, do you think? Or is it really those first two principles?
Yeah, it's really those first two principles. Really, for me, what it comes down to, like, independent films, they have to be backed by a distributor, obviously, otherwise they won't be distributed into a movie theater, but they're not backed by, say, like, a big film studio like Warner Brothers or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be like they'll get funding from some other method, and then they'll make the movie, and somebody will release it for you on your behalf, kind of thing.
Is your soft definition of a B movie different?
B movies, I guess, they're typically known as like a cheap, low budget film that, kind of what Joe was saying, by a smaller name distributor. Now, if you're looking way back in the day, B movies were actually kind of considered the second half of a double feature in theaters, and kind of the same idea of like when you're looking at like tape tracks, like there was an A side and a B side. So you had your B movie was your secondary movie. Usually wasn't as popular as the main movie, but it was there to watch.
Same in the music industry with records, the old 45s.
And you could argue too, like with a B movie, ultimately there's sort of a cheese factor to them.
Yeah, very much.
Based on the story and things like that, right? Like a lot of horror movies are B movies. There's a lot of B movie horror movies, but they're great, and they're great for different reasons. Like you'll look at it like on an entertainment factor. The movie The Room, for example, that was a world famous B movie, and it was famous for being terrible. That's the whole point of it.
One of the worst movies ever made, actually.
But it's famous for being terrible. And the what was the movie they did that was
the Disaster Artist?
Yeah, the Disaster Artist was basically created to sort of commemorate that, right? So the horrifics of that movie, and horrifics, I use that term loosely, but it was so bad that they made a movie about making that movie.
A.K. Right? James Franco an Academy Award nomination for that movie.
Yeah.
Which one's that?
The Disaster
Artist is based on the B movie The Room. And
now, is The Room the one with the mother and her daughter?
No, that's a different movie.
Oh.
No, The Room.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The Room is Johnny Wiseau.
Yeah, Wiseau or whatever. Yeah, he's a person of some other descent. I don't know where he's from. Not in America,
Norwegian,
but he moved to
Dutch
America
or something.
And he was fascinated with films and decided he wanted to learn how to make films. So he learned how to make films. He wrote a script for this movie, The Room, and he decided he was going to star in it. But he has no acting experience, and he's terrible at acting. And doesn't know how to deliver lines and things like that, and so just it's so bad that most people would just be laughing their way through the movie because it's so bad, and it's like terribly edited and all that stuff too.
I think of that line. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
You're actually making it sound good, like that specific scene. Like
seriously,
it was bad.
That's a T movie. That's not a B movie.
But that's a definition of a B movie. It's basically not. It's not what you would consider like. It's not. So it's similar to an independent movie in that it doesn't have a budget that, say, like an actual Hollywood movie would have, but also it's just like obviously different. Like it's terribly bad. It's almost like you see, like, you know, the kind of movies you made as a kid. You would take your parents' camcorder and just make a movie. It's like that.
Quite literally.
Yeah, mine aren't for the public to see.
Exactly. I have ones that I made with my buddy Guy back in the day.
Really?
Yeah, and we created a series of movies, and shout out to Guy. I actually ran into him at the store the other day. Shout out to him. We used to make these movies called The Night Stalker, and it was literally like this horror movie that we made. And we made a series of them. Like there was about 3 of them using his mom's camcorder. And I would edit them in camera. So as you guys know, I have a lot of video background. And I would literally edit them in camera because we were using a little tape, like not VHS, but 8mm tape. And I would edit them and then we'd watch them after we were done. And that was entertainment for us. It was so much fun.
These movies tend to have a bit of a funny atmosphere or aspect to them. I just recently watched a movie called Interceptor with my current partner, and it's about I guess there's interceptor bases that if say Russia was going to shoot nukes over to the States or to Canada, you have these intercept bases that would shoot missiles to intercept these missiles. And the whole idea is that there's this terrorist organization that comes and takes over one of these interceptor bases. And for the most part, the concept of the movie actually wasn't that bad, but there was 2 scenes that it kind of made me laugh when I was watching it with my partner. There's one where this lady's like beating up Elsa Pataki, the main actor, is like beating up on this girl that's, you know, in this office that they're trying to fight, and they've like stabbed each other, they shot at each other. I think the bad guy has been shot like 5 or 6 times, and Elsa Pataki's like, okay, I'll try to get a hold of things, and then the lady gets back up again.
Yeah,
and I literally yell, I'm like, she's still alive.
That's funny.
Before she finally gets kicked out of this building and lands on the water. So there was that scene. Then there's one other scene where they have the main character has like 5 minutes to get up to this computer to try and stop the missiles, or to get the interceptor missiles to fire on the Russian nukes.
Yeah.
And she's having to climb up like 50 meters up this building. She's been shot in the one arm, so can't use it. she has to start swinging on bars to get to where she needs to go. And they're probably a good 10 feet apart. And this all has to happen in 5 minutes. She finally gets up there and she starts like just lying down and she's like, never give up, never give up. And she's just lying there for like, she's got like 30 seconds to get this button. And then she finally slowly gets up and slowly climbs this other ladder. And it's easily like 5 minutes, another 5 minutes has passed at this point. And like, this is the longest 30 seconds ever.
That reminds me of like, it was one of the Fast and the Furious movies where they were like driving down the runway, the airport runway, and like the whole scene is like 15 minutes long, and this airplane's just going down this runway. It takes 15 minutes, and it's just like, this is the world's longest runway. I think I went on Facebook after that movie was released, and somebody showed like literally the map of the United States, and the length of that runway was half the United States. It's so funny.
Is there ever going to be a movie where they have to defuse a bomb and they defuse it with more than 1 second left on the timer?
Yeah, really.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
MacGruber. That's what I think of.
So I want to ask you guys if you would have thought, say, a B movie 10, maybe 15 plus years ago, would you define a B movie differently now with the streaming services? Like, movies that are, say, made by Amazon Prime.
There's literally a streaming service you can sign up for free and watch B movies for free. It's called Tubi.
Okay, yeah. I know.
Literally everything on Tubi is like
B movies,
independent B movies. Like, and they're like, I know people who are actors who are in these movies, and their movies are on Tubi. It's pretty funny.
Okay.
So Tubi is a good example. There's probably stuff on Netflix too. There's a movie that I want to recommend. It's a B movie, and it's considered as such because it was never got a wide release, so to speak. But I watched it on some streaming service. I cannot for the life of me remember what it was, but it was called Exists, and it's a Sasquatch movie. So these teenagers go stay at this cottage. And I think they're making a movie or something. I can't remember. They're doing something. But basically, it's one of those found footage movies because they're recording it. The whole thing they're recording. And they end up, without giving too much away, it's in the backwoods that they end up renting this place that they're going to stay in. Or they either rent it or it's one of their uncle's places or something like that. Anyways, it's nighttime. They're driving. And they ended up crashing into a baby or a child Sasquatch. And they crash into it. And all they see is this tuft of hair, kind of like, not tuft, but like a big piece of hair. They think it's a bear or something that they knocked over. But they hear this large scream from like the top of the woods or whatever. So they freak out and they just drive off, right? Well, in the movie, this Sasquatch, the mother Sasquatch, is basically taunting them and wants them to come out so it can like attack them for killing its child, right? That's what the movie's about. The Sasquatch basically hunts these people down. It's really good. It's actually really entertaining. It's like fun to watch. My wife didn't like it so much, but I was like, this is really good. I enjoyed it.
There's some like really, really good B movies. Like I saw Cocaine Bear last year.
Yeah,
that was a really good B movie.
Yeah.
It is worth every laugh.
Now that's a B movie that actually got a release though. Like it did get released in theaters. That's more of an independent movie, I would argue, based on that. But yeah, totally a B movie idea.
Probably the same idea. Well, if you're looking at ones that make into theater, then you're looking at guys like Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino, that their style of directing and movie making is Grindhouse is very B movie like, but they are able to make it a big production.
100%.
Like the Grindhouse movies, both Death Proof and Planet Terror were such fun movies.
And that was their homage. That was both of their homages to actually going to see Grindhouse movies, where literally it's back-to-back movies. So you go to a Grindhouse is basically like a movie theater that they literally would show B movies back to back.
Right.
So one movie, you'd watch that, and you'd have some like commercials, and then you'd watch a new movie.
Right.
Or the commercials would actually be trailers for other Grindhouse movies or whatever too. But they did a really good job with it. It was entertaining, and both movies were really fun to watch too. Yeah.
So Tiff and I were talking about this before you guys got here, and we were thinking, when we think B movies, we think like the horror genre.
Yeah, it's very popular.
In particular.
Yeah.
The reason I think that is that these days, traditionally you don't get blockbuster horror films.
No.
Not very often. Rarely. Maybe one a year, right? It usually comes out around Halloween.
Yeah.
But we found that my first thought would be like the Paranormal Activity series. Is that a B movie? Is that an independent movie? What would you guys class that as?
I would probably classify that as an independent. And again, the only reason for that is because of the release that it got.
Right.
But the sort of count to sort of support what you're saying, the reason why B movies are typically more horror is because it's easier to film. It's easier and cheaper to film horror than it is any other genre.
And it does spark that needle for a lot of people that want to go see it.
You can use your imagination in any horror movie. So like Blair Witch Project is a perfect example of that. Again, independent film because it wasn't backed by any major studio, but it did get a major release and it was a cult classic from the get-go. So that's kind of the idea with horror. It's just easy to be able to film something using your imagination.
If you're looking at like modern like B movies right now, probably one of the most popular, again, non-theater released B movies would be Sharknado series.
Yeah.
Would be the Sharknado series.
There are B movie comedies out there. I think of like Orgasmo.
Yep.
Basketball, that's more independent, I think, but like those type of movies.
Or even Eight-Legged Freaks.
Yeah. Eight-Legged Freaks. Did you ever see that with David Arquette?
Funny
I
movie.
heard about it back in the day. Yeah. I know the movie, but yeah.
There's some good ones too. Like they are decent. It's just a matter of being able to see them, right? Like that's the difference, I think, more than anything. You don't see a lot of sports B movies or anything like that because they are expensive to make. Like to do a proper sports movie, like it's not cheap to make because you've got to be able to, have proper set design and things like that. But it's fun if you can get a period piece independently made, then you've kind of done something incredible when you think about what it takes to do something like that.
If you were to separate the genres between B movie and independent movie, what would be your preferred to pick out of a pile to watch?
Probably independent. I mean,
yeah.
For me, it's because of the writing more than anything. Yeah. Like a B movie's typically got poor writing, poor editing,
some sort of satire to it.
It's more funny to watch them because they're so bad.
I've seen some titles where you're like, I'm not even gonna give this a second thought just based on the title.
Yeah, like
don't judge a book by its cover, but I'm judging a book by its cover.
When I think of a really good independent film, I think of something like Little Miss Sunshine.
Yeah.
Probably one of my favorite. Really, and that movie had like some really good actors in it. Like, it's incredible when you think about the people that were in that movie. But it's considered an independent film because of how low budget it was. But it was a really good movie, and it was well acted, well directed, well edited. The story was incredible, and so it's probably one of my favorites out there.
Probably one of mine is done by my favorite director. It was one of his first major films. Memento is considered an independent film, and really interesting film to watch. If you want a unique idea like Inception was for me, Memento is a movie that's done backwards. You're seeing the end from the beginning. And
it inspired a lot of things too. Like there's an episode of Seinfeld that's done the same exact way, where it's literally starts at the end and works its way back.
Yeah. It's really cool because it's done through. He's lost his mind and he's having to remind himself by tattooing stuff on his arm. And you're going through segments of his memory. And to the climax is literally at the end of the film because you find out exactly why everything that happened at the beginning of the film starts basically at the end. It's a really cool concept, and it was a great independent film to watch. It's still one of my favorites to watch.
I want to say I've seen that. Who is the lead actor in that movie?
Guy Pearce.
Guy Pearce.
Okay. Interesting. I could swear that I've seen that, but it's not necessarily ringing a bell. Interesting. Do you guys have a guess? Like I'm just looking at kind of a list here of like the highest grossing independent movies. There's a lot of really good movies on this list.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what the highest grossing one is?
Is that Passion of the Christ?
Passion of the Christ.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that film.
That was Mel Gibson's first directorial movie, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen that movie?
I have, yes. It's powerful.
How is it? It's what?
It's powerful.
It's powerful, but it's hard. So let me say it. I have to take my anti-religion hat off for a second. It's powerful. It's just like, and it's incredibly acted. Like, what's his name? The lead actor,
Jim Caviezel.
Yeah, Jim Caviezel. I'm a huge fan of Jim Caviezel's. Even before this movie, he did a movie with He did a movie called Frequency with Dennis Quaid,
Yeah.
which I absolutely love that movie. He's completely different in this movie. Like Passion of the Christ, he plays Jesus Christ, and they use the language that they're said to have spoken in those.
Hebrew,
it's like it's a different kind of Hebrew though. It's like almost like a Latin / Hebrew type thing.
Yeah.
Like it's not spoken anymore. You know what I mean? No. Like crazy to think about.
Number 2 on this list was a fantastic movie, and I saw this one, The Untouchables.
Oh yeah.
The one from France.
Yeah.
There was a remake here with Bryan Cranston and Kevin Hart, which was okay, but this one was really, really good. Yeah. Have you seen this one, Paul? The Untouchables?
I haven't seen that. No.
Did you see the Kevin Hart Bryan Cranston one?
No.
Okay. It's a movie.
That's the one where Cranston's in a wheelchair.
It's about a quadriplegic man who.
Oh, never mind. I have seen it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which one?
The Bryan Cranston one.
So The Untouchables is the French version, the original, and it's really, really. I'd say even having to read the subtitles, it's funnier than the Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston version. To be honest with you,
I believe.
But I mean, we're talking like Dances with Wolves, The King's Speech, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, American
Shakespeare
Beauty,
in Love.
Shakespeare in Love, 7, Silence of the Lambs was classed as an independent film.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, what a great
and
movie.
See, again, I think those just all stem from the fact that they weren't backed by a major studio.
Yeah.
They had a budget that they were able to work with because they got financing in some way, and that's what makes them an independent film, right? So there's a lot of incredible options out there for sure.
Good Will Hunting.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. Actually, that's a perfect example of an independent film when you consider that Matt Damon and Ben Affleck wrote that movie and directed it, or I don't know if they directed it, but they definitely wrote that movie. Got it to go
quite literally launched
on their own, and they got Robin Williams to star in it with them.
Yeah.
Like pretty incredible stuff.
It was written by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon.
Did they direct it too or no?
Gus Van Sant was the director. Yeah.
I had a feeling that was the case, but I know that they wrote it anyway and they got to star in it, which is incredible. It really, definitely helped make their careers.
Really propelled them. Like it really got.
They won an Oscar too.
Great independent film that you might have seen. I don't know that you've seen. What We Do in the Shadows. Have you ever seen that one? I've
seen the TV show.
It's got Jermaine Clement. Okay. So it's the movie is what the TV show is based on.
Okay.
You should watch it. It's a comedy. It's a very satirical.
Well, the show is hilarious.
Yeah. If you like the show, you'd love the movie. It's got Jermaine Clement from Flight of the Conchords.
Yeah,
is in that.
Well, yeah, he's funny.
Taika Waititi's in the movie. I don't know the other two.
Did he write it too, or
I'm pretty sure Taika Waititi wrote it.
That sounds about right.
But it's if you like some of that satire British comedy, this is again about vampires that all live together, but they're doing kind of like not the found footage, but like documentary style footage that's being done with these vampires all living together and the quirks of living together in this home. It's quite a funny movie, and it's nice. It'd be one of my top independent films to recommend.
I can't believe some of the titles on this list, and I would have never in a million years thought independent film when I see the titles.
And I think a lot of it just stems from the writing, right? Like they have incredible writing, incredible directing, and they start as an independent film, but they end up making a lot of money because people really like what they're watching, right? So Silence of the Lambs is probably a perfect example of that.
Yep. Even if you're looking at films like Desperado and stuff like that, they were inspired by the first independent film for that was
or even like I think of Dawn, From Dusk Till Dawn, kind of same idea.
Oh, absolutely.
Rodriguez was not, he wasn't as established as he is now, obviously back then. So.
Am I the only one who was blown away by the direction that specific movie went? Yeah. I was actually going to be impressed with the premise of the movie, the way it was going before all of a sudden there was freaking vampires. And you're like, did I just switch VHS tapes and not realize?
So you know who my friend Todd Jones is, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Todd Jones, he introduced me to Robert Rodriguez. I cannot say his name. Robert Rodriguez.
You need glasses for your mouth?
He introduced me to Robert Rodriguez's movies. Let me start this again. He introduced me to Robert Rodriguez's movies, starting with From Dusk Till Dawn, and I got to see that. And he's so funny when you watch a movie with him because he's so excited about what you're watching. He's like, watch this every time it happens, right? He loves subtleties. My friend Todd does. Because he's also a filmmaker. He loves the little subtleties and things, and he tries to emulate that when he makes his movies. One particular subtlety in that movie is the way George Clooney's character tilts his head. Whenever something weird is happening, he kind of tilts his head, and he just every time he's like, "Watch that," and then he does it. And he's just like, "Oh, I love it so much." There's those little things. If you ever watch Kill Bill, which I know you're not a Tarantino fan, but if you watch Kill Bill, there's a specific scene in the first volume where she's riding a motorcycle, and Tarantino cuts to a shot of her shoelace flapping in the wind. It's Todd's favorite shot of both movies. Like, he's like, that is my favorite shot in the whole thing. It doesn't do anything for the story, but just this idea of a shoelace flapping in the wind. It just does so much detail for him that
it brings more humanity to the character,
exactly.
Right? So
yeah, it's just so that's the appreciation of filmmaking that I think I can probably tell you that some people have when it comes to watching movies. Things you wouldn't notice watching a movie.
Well, it's so funny because we've been doing this podcast, 6 months now, just
yeah.
about? And I find when I watch movies now, I notice other things like that.
Yeah.
And picking it up from you guys and how you approach films. And I'm trying to cater myself away from just if it blows up, I'm good.
Yeah.
and to the, those subtleties and seeing little things like that.
What you could do is when you watch a movie, you could sit down at the end of the movie, you can say, okay, well, why did they do this in the movie? What did this do to the story? What did this do to the character? How did it develop this specific scene, et cetera, et cetera? Like, you can ask those questions, and then if you start to understand why, then you'll start to see why we see it that way.
One of the nice things about independent films compared to, say, like Hollywood films is they do tend to step away in terms of story and detail than the Hollywood tropes that you see in a lot of mainstream films. Prime example to me would be Donnie Darko. It's a time travel movie, but it's not done like a Hollywood time travel movie. And it's got a lot of detail that you have to pay attention to in that film because it's such a unique film, and it was not intended to be this big powerhouse film, but it created a great cult following because it just was so unique and such a detailed movie that was not like your everyday Hollywood movie.
Totally.
That one was definitely messed up.
And I think that's one of the things, just to sort of finish this off, that's one of the things that I think that we can say you can appreciate more about independent and B movies, really. Like, you do get something different out of them than you would, say, a Hollywood movie, right? Like, you compare, say, any of the Marvel movies to, say, an independent movie, and you're watching something completely different. Like, you're not going into an independent movie expecting what you would get out of a Marvel movie or any other type of Hollywood movie. So there's almost more to it. Like, you expect good writing, you expect something that's going to kind of get your attention more, right? And that's my appreciation for independent films is you're almost getting, it's kind of like watching players play hockey in the AHL. These are guys who are trying to get to the NHL. So these people making independent movies, they're trying to get big budgets from Hollywood so that they can make these big blockbusters, right? But honestly, you have to start somewhere, and that's typically where you get those movies, like Memento is an example.
Yeah, prime example.
Gentlemen, that's it for today's podcast. I think we've gotten through a lot of stuff there, but as always, I want to say thank you guys for listening. It's always a pleasure, and if you guys want to give us maybe some suggestions for future shows or anything you'd like us to talk about, make sure you reach out to us on our social media. We're available on Twitter, or X, if you will, Facebook, TikTok. We're also on YouTube, and of course, anywhere you get your podcast. Make sure you reach out to us. Once again, for the PUCKNPOD, my name is Joe.
Brando.
And I'm Tom. Actually, it's Paul.
I'm shocked.
All right. I'm appalled now.
And I'm Paul.
We will see you guys in the next one.